don't like. So
Okay,
Myron, if you can make me co-host, or I just sent the request to record because I made you the host. So
okay,
okay, I think it's recording now though. It
okay,
says
great.
recording in the corner.
So, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So, I'm gonna share the screen and I'm gonna use this one. Hopefully that works. And then I'll be able to go anywhere I want, I think. Um, so let's see, where are we? Okay, so, um, can
Yeah,
you see the screen that,
it's
says,
showing the desktop.
oh, you're showing the desktop. How do I get it to the other thing?
You can either share a specific application or you can share what's on your screen. So it just shows one for one what's on your screen.
Okay, I want to share, maybe I'm sharing the wrong thing. Let's stop share and I want to share what's on my browser.
Okay.
Okay. And let's see, I think this is it. Okay. Now you can see my screen.
yep.
Yes.
Okay. So what I want to do, I have three different windows of emails that were sent, and hopefully that you can see this. I just switched to a different one.
Hmm.
And the original notice of the meeting is here. And I the thing that's going on is that I joined a docket, it's called DER docket, Distributed Energy Resource docket. And I actually sent an email to Kay on it was Saturday night, wherein I pointed out that there is this funky thing going on. It's sort of described at the bottom. So what happened is that I wrote to her, I said, a DER docket was open. If you can see on my screen, I hope that helps. I signed up on time to intervene. I met with the outside crowd on Friday to compare notes and look for a common strategy. I learned that the deck is already stacked deeply for microgrids and against load flexing or anything else. Although the docket does not mention VPP, it does not want flexible negative demand. It only wants access to power from orchestrated microgrids. This is not virtual. I don't know if I should fight or join the coalition. And so then I sent that to Kay on Saturday night, and the next morning we spoke. And then I sent this longer version out later in the afternoon, which points out that we have a docket in place. And then by December, I'll make this bigger so people can see on my screen. Where's the zoom button here? Okay. Close this off so I can see better. So by December 20th, which is literally Friday, we have to respond. Every intervener has to give a submission to the parties to talk about what you want to do and also talk about whether the Sarah credit should be used as a legal issue. And I also created a Word document, and those who may have seen it. I also gave this context, namely the docket. The DER docket is actually a bookend to a resilience docket that started a few weeks after Hurricane Ida destroyed large parts of the electric and transmission systems. And in that docket, we proposed our rate design, which would allow a lot of DERs via an opt-in rate. And I think Bruce knows about my rate design because he was at the conference. And Kay and others people in GWAC, Grid Wise Architecture Council, at RE Plus in Anaheim in September. I gave a talk and I presented ProRate at the time, and I think many people like to talk, but distributed energy resources we're talking about is a larger group than they seem to be interested in the core group I spoke to on Friday, namely batteries, solar with batteries, batteries without solar, flexing appliances like water heaters or ACs, energy efficient electric vehicles. And there's a full gamut of DERs. However, they only want to install batteries in homes that already have rooftop solar, which I think is very, very limited and inappropriate, limiting and inappropriate. So Kay and I had a conversation and we pointed out that maybe our response to writing this thing should go about talking about what happened in California a few years ago, where they made a request to cut back on consumption or provide electricity to the grid. I think the primary response that won the day was the cutback in demand, but certainly that was a contribution for microgrids. And I do not know the actual link to this reference. If we need it, I'm sure we can find it. And we need a comment on whether these things should be, whether we can use Siri credits. Siri, in case you forget, is System Energy Resource Incorporated, a part of Entergy, and that's where they keep certain things related to this. And I also said that Kay was be holding a regional conference, but actually Kay corrected that, and she wrote in an email back to me that this is it right here, that actually her no, it isn't either, or is the right one?
It's not, it's a national sorry, it's a national microgrid conference in New Orleans in
Right,
March.
yeah, right. It's actually in this one, I think. And she, well, maybe it isn't this one. Anyway, it's a conference, and she has a pivotal position to control that. So one of her ideas was that we could use that activity that's going to happen in March to help steer this event, name this docket, in the right direction. So I might be talking too long, but I want to put things in context. So an email that Kay wrote, it was in response to an email I created. I created an email about 10 hours ago entitled DPP, namely Distributed Power Plants, is a competing view to virtual peaking plants, which is held by another participant. So anyway, what I wrote, let's go back to the bottom of the thread, is that a woman named Shannon Anderson was one of the small group of interveners into the UD 2402 docket I met on Friday. All of them promoted only one DER upgrade, namely anti-batteries to rooftop solar. I'm repeating this. And I didn't think their approach was the best use of ratepayer funds. And Shannon was trying to convince people she was right. She put this in the chat session. And it's real important to go there for context, because I didn't realize how biased is maybe the right word this organization is. So this is their website, which is the Solar United Neighbors organization. And it looks pretty vanilla and fine and doesn't cause a problem until you start realizing that it has a lot of, I would call, inaccuracies at the least. So how did I know they were inaccurate and what was going on? Because I was trying to figure out why it is that I think we should turn on all DRs, and they think we should only turn on adding batteries to rooftop solar. So I actually did a weird thing. I went to the internet and I said, Internet, tell me what is the right thing to do? Should we be using DPPs or VPPs? Again, DPPs are distributed power plants and VPPs are virtual power plants. And I was actually surprised to learn that based on their efforts and others, Wikipedia now thinks VPPs are DPPs. Let me clarify what I'm saying. A distributed power plant is a lot of microgrids being orchestrated to provide power to the grid. VPP is that, as well as a lot of other things, namely load flexing appliances, but also, things like electric vehicles as well.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sorry, Myron, your definitions are wrong.
okay, tell me.
Your VPP definition is correct, but distributed power plant is strictly power being generated generally without control onto the system. So your solar on your roof, your residential roof, is a distributed power plant.
Okay, so I want to tell you, you may know better than me, but I want to tell you, I looked it up on Wikipedia, and certainly the solar that what a United Solar Neighbors, Solar United Neighbors, whatever the name is, they have seemed to have effectively gotten Wikipedia, which we know is the expert on nothing, but claims to be the expert in everything, actually describes VPPs as distributed power plants that are orchestrated, like microgrids. And anyway,
That is potentially true, yes.
that is certainly a way of doing it, but they claim it is the way to do it. And the reason why that's the case may be discerned from the response when I asked AI. I literally asked AI Google, are DPPs the best kind of APP?
Don't necessarily believe the
No, I
AI
don't. I
from
don't. I
Google
don't.
because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If
No, I
one
know
person
that.
says it, then it delivers the answer to somebody else. Then two people say it, and then
I get you. I get you. But I'm trying to explain how it is we got in this confusion in the first place. I'm trying to explain it. So what happens is DP, and I actually had the same problem way back 10 years ago. I asked Wikipedia, what's energy conservation? And their answer was energy efficiency by another name, which is not true. And so I find that Wikipedia gives the answer that's most commonly presumed without knowing how to distinguish. But anyway, it's important to look at AI's opinion because AI's opinion explains, which is not opinion, but computer value, explains why these confusions occur. So most of the stuff over here, they say it is generally
we
considered. the
can't
best
see your screen, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry, you can't see my screen?
No.
And can anybody else have that problem? Brendan, can you see my screen?
I can see your screen, but when I look at it, it unmutes my microphone.
Okay.
I
Chris
don't
can
know
see-
if what I'm looking at is your screen or not.
Oh, okay. It depends upon I'm sorry. It depends on what screen I'm looking at. I got actually two screens up on the Zoom. Never mind. I got your screen.
Okay, so this, this is an email I sent to the ProRate Energy listserv a couple of hours ago. I said, this is a result of an AI question. I don't claim that I wish you to believe everything in it, on the contrary, but I am trying to explain to you what's been going on. So most of this stuff here is pretty good, although they didn't really answer my question. I asked you, what's the best kind of VPP? And they basically said that DPP is really the only kind of VPP. And they said this implicitly, but you'll see why it becomes explicit. So this is a quote from the United Solar United Neighbors, which is the same place I told you Shannon is from. And she says, according to Solar United Neighbors say, according to a 2023 study by the Brattle Group, a DPP costs roughly 40 to 60% less than alternative options for providing power, and an estimated 60 gigawatts a DPP, etc. However, that's not what the Brattle Group study says. Okay, and I say that this is a misquote by Solar United Neighbors of the following direct quote from Brattle. This is the same report, and this is the report and the link to the report, which does not use the term DPP at all, and in fact says, real reliability, a VPP that leverages residential load flexibility could perform as reliably as conventional resources and contribute to resource adequacy at a similar scale. Which means they're not talking about DPPs because DPPs don't leverage.
That is Ryan Holdeck's and Ahmad Farouque's
right.
Study. Yep.
Right. And that came out.
It's wrong, but it's a well done study.
Yeah, but it doesn't say it's not about DPPs. And the fact that Solar United Neighbors recast this report and use DPPs where DPP does not appear in the Brattle report is an attempt by them to move the definition of VPP to be only DPPs. Excuse me.
Myron, all due respect, this
Yeah.
is not important.
Okay.
The point is, don't I make the same mistake. Don't try to prove why they're wrong. Prove why they should accept what you want, what you need.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just saying
so
that's
trying to prove them being wrong is not gonna accomplish anything. All you're gonna do is get them pushing back and challenging you.
Okay, all right, so I will drop this, but I just want to point out how it is we got to a point where this is inappropriate confusion between the two. VPPs are not only DPPs, there are a lot of other things.
It doesn't matter, definitions are so, VPPs, there's no real definition of VPPs.
Right,
VPPs are all over the map. So it's really not germane to the question, which is by Friday, I suggest only one page, but if you get to two, that's reasonable.
okay, I have your opinion on the screen, okay?
You got to make a case for how to effectively use what is $10 million a year for 3 years.
Right,
And the second email I wrote today
that's on the screen.
is they want to subsidize stuff. They want to subsidize an asset. An asset does not make fundamental change.
Mhm.
All it does is buy an asset.
Right,
And what you should show is how either large-scale pilot project or a study of what the value of grid flexibility is, what it provides the system, and the regulatory structure to make that happen. That's a long-term leave behind for value. That's the long-term leave behind that can transform the New Orleans grid.
okay, so isn't convincing me, it's trying to get us all on the same page, and, we have this jaded,
Well, you have to convince the regulators not to spend money stupidly.
no, I appreciate that, and
Yeah,
I'm
and
trying to say,
you gotta
Right.
factor in that this year alone, battery prices are dropping about 30%.
okay, that's nice.
I'll debate that, Thor, but that's.
Yeah, I hear you, but
By the way, Tor is not pronounced with an H, but
I'm sorry, Thor.
let me say something.
error will do.
Every meeting that Tor goes to, he tells us about batteries. So Tor, just try to stay on the focus of this meeting. I'm not saying it's irrelevant. It's not irrelevant, but we're really talking about how to get us to make a plan to use the $10 million a year properly. And of course, batteries is going to be part of the solution. But if you were to talk to the other guys that I spoke to first, that's going to be the only solution. And not only will they only put batteries in buildings, but they'll only put batteries with rooftop solar. They won't put batteries in homes that don't have rooftop solar. So they're really, really narrowly focused on one way of creating a VPP, namely a DPP that outputs electricity. And one could argue, well, okay, when the grid goes down, like after Hurricane Ida, you probably are going to need your solar panels, but 90% of the time when we have grid power insufficiency, it's not going to be following or during a storm, and therefore recently stored batteries just 4 hours earlier can do a lot for the next 2 hours. And that's why I think that makes sense. But nevertheless, so trying to nail down what Kay is saying, and I'm trying to criticize it because I want to succeed. I don't want to just say, oh yeah, okay, you're right. So what's happening is that I think we've made good suggestions lots of times. For I even pointed out in the resilience docket, we proposed ProRate to turn on the DERs to help solve this problem, and it was thrown out. Now, how do we get it not thrown out? How do we pose?
Don't mention prorate.
Okay, fine, that'll help. I agree. But another thing is, the council has consultants. And these consultants are absolutely livid when you say, I've got a better consultant. That actually happened to me 10 years ago when I first proposed ProRate at the council, and the chief utility consultant turned red-faced when I said, you don't understand ProRate. And he got incredibly angry and
Well, you just made you made an enemy right then.
right. Well, anyway, we didn't heal up, although I was certainly wish we did.
You gotta give them honey.
Right. So what is your suggestion of, okay, you have this idea, And I want to read the sentence over here, which I'm going to highlight because it looks like two sentences, but it's not. It's one sentence, even though there's an inappropriate period in the middle. I'll read it the way she intended. It is not concrete that we will implement ProRate to XYZ, name of the console, but the consultant, we will implement or promote consultants to support the regulators and the community to build a plan for the future. Was that a good paraphrase?
Yeah, I think I paraphrased it before, is you want to build the foundation for transitional change, where the energy transition is happening. And New Orleans doesn't really have a plan for the future. They're incrementally building. They're finding some free money, $30 million in this case, and they're gonna go and buy some things.
Right,
You know, it's the equivalent of the bear with me. I've been in inner cities a lot, and the guy on welfare who's driving around a big pink Cadillac. He hasn't built any wealth. He's just bought a very nice pink Cadillac. We have to create wealth. We have to create a transition path for how we get out of this.
well, I also will emphasize that if you just put in batteries and you don't create a remuneration for the person with the batteries,
You've
you're
just
not-
bought an asset.
that's all you've got asset. You haven't given them a payback. And the rate design does it. So I don't know that we have to promote ProRate in the beginning. I'm going to take your advice, but I want other people to chime in to tell us how to do this, because I mean, I love any idea. We have a lot of failed ideas. Okay. And
Or, I mean, I see your comment here. Buy 30 million of solar panels and batteries, anything more complicated, and they'll just confuse people.
that's what Tor wrote, right? He's going
Yeah,
to say that.
I get that, and that's what whoever this woman was is counting on, that they'll
Right.
just go and buy some things.
That's right.
But it
And
doesn't fundamentally
wasn't just
change
her.
the system.
There's actually three other organizations. One of them was a company that sells solar and batteries. Another one was a company that sells solar and batteries. And the other two were long-time nonprofits in New Orleans who also want the simple solution. And I think the reason, I think you have to give them credit for something like they have more credibility than I do, which is easy to do, but also take something that you can get and not promote something that's better, because let's not make perfect be the enemy of the good. I'm talking against myself, Kay, in this case. And by the way, I want to make sure everybody knows who's here. David Stetz is the past chairman of the Louisiana Sierra Club, and he and I have been close friends. We have Chris Faust, he calls himself Spaceman Chris, who moved to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina to try to make a big difference. And Brendan here is our leader and president and recent PhD success in engineering. Jack is a licensed professional electrical engineer. Jack Das, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. Yeah, and Mehar is actually the wife of the actual participant. That's Jack. Is Richard Jenkins, who's in San Antonio. And then Bruce is a representative of Lawrence Berkeley Labs in California. And so June seemed to have faded out. But anyway, so we have a good assortment of thinkers here. And I just don't know how to sell it. Kay's idea. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. One of the problems is the city
Well, I
council.
mean, if you do nothing, you're gonna get $30 million worth of solar panels and batteries. So there's
Right.
no point in putting any effort in if the end result of this group wants to is to argue that we'll buy $30 million worth of solar panels and batteries, maybe you'll get $30 million worth of batteries. That's what you're gonna get, because that's easy. That's an easy decision for any regulator. We'll just go buy some stuff.
Okay, well, even if we were going to do that, we need to use a orchestrating software, or what's called DERMS, the management system for DERs. And they already have one sort of, they've worked out for their battery pilot, they started about 2 years ago. And that would be their control mechanism. If we were to try to promote ProRate, we would have to build software to get ProRate into their rate structure and and that's a heavy lift. We
Yeah,
guesstimated that,
and you've already poisoned the well with ProRate.
right? But in
They
ours,
won't, they don't hear you at all, Myron, now.
I get it. But I'm saying if we don't do the easy thing, how do we do the better thing? And that's what I'm trying to get us all to talk about. Okay, I'm being your ally and your adversary so we can have the right conversation,
Yeah,
okay?
all I'm saying is you have to make the argument that building fundamental change, unfortunately, it's going to be consultants to do a good study of what the value of distributed systems, distributed solar, distributed batteries, and grid flexibility provides to the system. The things that ProRate can provide, you need to get a consultant to come in and say, hey, guess what? This ProRate stuff will work. Because you can't say that because no one believes you.
Right, okay. So how do we create, so how do you create a preface that with which will allow them to hire a consultant? What's the right way to argue that or present it?
The problem is fundamentally is the architecture of the system. The architecture of the system is Energy New Orleans, ENO, is in the business of putting in assets. That's their business model.
That's
They
how they
make
make money,
money
right,
on buying assets and deploying them.
right,
If something costs $10 million, they make more money if they find a solution that costs $20 million.
right. No, okay, we get that. I think most people understand that.
Right.
The question is, how do we get what I have highlighted on the screen happening? What do we write up? Do we say, look at these 6 articles, like the 2 that you mentioned in this email from,
No, I think you lay the ground, you lay the argument that we need fundamental change rather than just strictly subsidizing things. We subsidize the pathway, development of the pathway to a new future, and that is a fully distributed system
okay,
that supports equitability, the New Orleans people, resilience, all the things that you can talk about.
okay. So, would a path be, look, they tried, this is what they did in Australia, and it solved problems that otherwise it wasn't going to be solved, or it solved problems better than would have been solved, or cheaper than it would have been solved.
That's a very, very good thing. Grid flexibility in United Kingdom is working. It's
Okay.
it's keeping prices lower than they would have been.
Okay,
Hi, folks.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is
Sorry.
Bruce. If I could jump in, apologies for the background noise. There's this PNL
Yeah,
DSO plus T
that-
study,
wait,
which
just a second. Richard, Bruce Norton's talking.
Yeah,
Please wait a minute.
the background noise is just me saying, I'm sorry I'm late. Please continue.
Okay, go ahead, Bruce.
the DSO plus T study from PNL found that engaging flexibility reduced bills, I think by 15% for people who were flexible.
17%, I think, Bruce, you're right.
Yes. And then, but also by like 7% for people who did nothing at all. And there's a question of who should get the benefit for somebody's action. But in any case, that's a study, a very long study you could cite. And in Scandinavia, millions of people pay hourly prices today. And they changed to that because it reduces bills and it reduces system operating costs. And California now has hourly prices, albeit on a limited basis, that are different every day. And sort of I think the analogy would be sort of like the teach a man to fish kind of thing. What Kay is observing is that this is teaching somebody how to fish and giving them a fishing pole, but not allowing them to fish in any place where there's actually fish in the water, only allowing them to fish in ponds that have no fish. So that doesn't do the person any good.
Okay, Bruce.
Good job. Good analogy, Bruce. I love it.
Bruce, let me just tell you something. I know what you're talking about. I'm having parsing trouble with your words because you're talking too fast. And if it's hard for me, it's got to be hard for the rest of us. Please say all these stuff again, a little slower. Emphasize when you get changed to a new thing because I missed it. I know you mentioned a study in various places. Just say it again, please, so we get it because we're recording and want to be able to recall it.
Okay, DNNL did a study called DSO plus T, distributed systems something plus transmission, I think,
Oh.
like that.
Well, distributed system operator plus transactive energy is what it actually is.
Okay, okay, that sounds much more
We
correct.
wouldn't get that. Okay, go ahead.
Hayden Reeve was the PI.
Okay.
A second point was that millions of people pay hourly prices today, and they're doing just fine. And the third point was this allegory about a person and a fishing pole.
Say it again.
Well, you teach someone to fish, but you don't allow them to cast a line into any water that actually has fish. That's what Kay was saying about buying assets, but not allowing them to be useful to the person who then has them.
Okay.
It's the old parable in the Bible. Unfortunately, it's the wrong Bible for you, Myron.
That's okay. It's all right. Okay. Richard, did you want to say something? I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, thank you for asking. I'm a little late to catch all of the context here, but I think I get the general drift. I think that hourly for in my market here in California, if it was introduced abruptly, as apparently is the case, is going to produce at least some chaos. I think that there's a lot of, shall we say, infrastructural considerations that need to be given for those who are less well-heeled, as the old expression goes. I mean to say, the wealthy can take care of themselves, and there's a lot of those, and they tend to control the politics. But what happens to those who are otherwise left to fend for themselves in an environment in which we pay the highest in the nation, I think, and they just jacked us. Oh, wait, they're about to jack us another 5 or 7% at the turn of the new year. And there's
Richard, because
millions of us having problems. Anyway, I'll leave it there.
Richard, so you walked a little bit late. We have already gotten to a point where we're not going to be talking about rate design, but we're trying to talk about how we take Kay's suggestion, and you may not be, you can't see on the screen. I don't know if you can see the screen, but I have currently highlighted a key phrase in her email that says, we're not going to decide to implement ProRate to XYZ, but instead we're going to encourage them to hire consultants to support the regulators and the community to build a plan for the future. And assuming that's where we're going, we're trying how to collect the examples, the studies to help make this point. And this is where we were when you came in. And Bruce was telling us about studies produced in PNNL and success with certain rate designs. And I think Kay mentioned that we're load flexing in England. So we would create a report saying we want to do this. We have to give some examples. And then I think maybe what we could do also, and Sea Council does do this, is invite people to give a talk to the council. And like, I think I could get you and Kay, Bruce and Kay invited to talk. And you would sit down and talk for 10, 20, 30 minutes, and then they'd ask you questions. I think that might be a way to make something happen. And then we also have the opportunity in March. So I think if we make that kind of a plan, we might get more success than just sticking another piece of paper on their desk. What do you guys think? What do you
I
think, Kay?
like the idea of being involved in these two sessions that the documents call out. I think it's vital to be involved in them.
Oh, no, they have these stakeholder meetings. But what I've found is I've been in stakeholder meetings and then they get limited in scope. And I actually was told I couldn't talk about prorate in the second stakeholder meeting. And then later on in another docket, the same kind of thing happened. But so it sounds inclusive, but then it isn't many times.
Is there an opportunity to ask for inclusiveness in advance? That is to say, help adjust the agenda of these events.
Well, anyway, I don't think you have a problem in the first stakeholder meeting of saying whatever you want. It's trying to guide the process further along. And if we can, I think Kay would be easy to sell you as an expert. Bruce also to sell you as an expert. We may have choose some others. We could try to push
Somebody
for,
like Lorenzo and Mark Patterson.
yeah, I mean, that's right. If we can get some name brand experts that come to a session, city council has done this many times before, and say, okay, 2 months from now, we're gonna have a session, we have these people coming, and we let other members of the public recommend their speakers. For example, I think we might, let them represent this woman Shannon who thinks that all VPPs are DPPs, whatever it is. And then we get these stories clarified, confronted, and see who knows what they're talking about, and say, look, it's easy to go spend $30 million or $10 million on batteries, but where are you going to be at the end? And it's clear that if you don't have a plan to remunerate these investments, like prorate or something else, this is not going to be a continuing positive effect. So I'm thinking that we need to say, here are the kind of consultants, people have hired consultants in Massachusetts or Berkeley or Iowa, and they had this result, and as a consequence, a better solution was found, and they followed it up. Maybe that's the way to go. I just want a plan that I think they can jump on and say, this is the way to do it. So if you want consultants, then you're going to have to present them with our local people. What happens is the city council hears they're spending $6 to $10 million a year for their consultants, which is more than some public service commissions or public utility commissions spend on their entire staff. And they do this every year. And so they say, I've actually heard city councilmen say, I'm paying these people $7 million a year. These are my attorneys. I'm a fool if I don't listen to them. And then
You're a fool for paying them in the first place.
yeah, that's true. So what we need to do is show that we have better consultants than they do, and this is a better way forward.
I would change what I said when I talked about consultants. The end result is consultants. But the ask for this is to develop a plan, use the money to develop a plan for transitioning the system for the future net zero energy grid. They need the plan. So we don't say, go hire these consultants. You go and say, let's spend the money developing the plan. The end result is no one in New Orleans, at least not the regulators, have the capability of developing the plan. So then they go hire the consultants, and then there's an RFP. And now you can go and get, I got Lorenzo and Mark Patterson to develop the DSO study in Maine because I wrote the friggin' law.
Okay.
I,
So-
that
I think
forced the
I think-
RFP to go down a path.
I think Kay is politically exactly correct. Yes,
Okay, so we need to write a proposal that will create a process leading to an RFP to hire consultants. Is that what we're saying?
And then bend during the technical meetings, bend the creation of that RFP to get your correct selected consultants, people like Mark Patterson and Lorenzo Christoph. And
Okay,
then you will get the result you want. Or at least you have a better chance at getting the result you want.
yep,
okay,
that's politically smart.
okay, well, that's what I'm looking for, because it won't come out of my head. I'm good on technical stuff, but not good politics. Okay? So,
I would venture that Kay is probably the best person in this call, although I don't know Bruce, on the politics of energy that we're discussing. I mean, my understanding is that Kay has been incredibly successful at landing grants. We've been through that process, right?
Yeah. and she has really good credentials in Maine where she's from, so that's great. So,
Speaking of
and-
that, I have a sit down with all the PUC commissioners on Friday.
right, and of course, she's a leader in GWAC. And she's gonna be leading this event in March. For
Pull back. I'm not leading. I am on the board of one of the sponsors,
okay, name the sponsor so we all know.
the Microgrid Resources Coalition.
Okay, so if we look at the fact that we're sort of discouraging that this particular docket goes strictly for promoting microgrids, what better expert than have someone who has a broad view, but they're on the board of the microgrid groups, okay? So that would be good, all right? So I think what we need to do is we sort of have a plan, namely, we're going to, let me see if I can restate it. We're going to propose that we create an RFP to find consultants to produce what she calls in the next sentence, a bridge to the future, okay? So that we can figure out how to get the lasting change that we want. I'm paraphrasing the next sentence after the one highlighted on the screen. And that would be the plan we write. So do we want to spend any time in the one pager that we're going to submit on Friday, clarifying the distinction between a DPP and a VPP and why our
I wouldn't touch it. Don't try
Okay.
to tell people why they're wrong. It never
Okay.
works out well.
Okay, so, but we're talking about different solutions. We've got to somehow or another, we have to present a few papers, like maybe the one that you just referenced to.
Myron.
We just a minute. Wait, we have to reference
Myron,
something to explain.
Myron, listen. Myron, listen to Kay. He's right again. You don't challenge their premise. What you do is, in my also successful but not maybe as successful proposal experience, you simply provide your alternative path is gosh, how do you put it? You put in your prologue or your description, whatever, ahead of your actual text of your proposal, the issues that clarify all of those things you want to be saying, where you are going to be trying to tell them they're doing it wrong, except this time you're accepting their premises, you're just guiding it in an appropriate way. I'll just leave it at that.
So I'm gonna try to take off. I'm having trouble hearing you guys. I'm not saying not I can hear it. It has to get into my brain type thing. That's what I mean by hearing it. So what Kay suggested in the same email is that we look at a document produced by what is his name?
Mark Patterson.
Mark Patterson. And if you read it, and I have read it, it's only 11 pages long. It's not so hard. And he talks about the various complexities for dealing with an electric grid and how it's become more complex with many more DERs and et cetera. Somebody's background noise needs to be turned off, please. And if we could find one or two more articles like that, maybe the Brattle Group's an example, where we show, looking at it from a different perspective, we get better solutions. And maybe we should reference that in the report that we're making on Friday. What do you think, Kay?
Well, basically, you can take about the top five top five presentations for the Pacific Energy Institute, and you'll have almost everything you need.
Okay, so two of them are on the screen, and you'll pick out the other three.
Well, you just go on the site, and the top five are probably acceptable.
But maybe it would be better if we used different sources. Bruce, do you have some more suggestions?
Well, I mean, all the stuff that Mark has done for Australia, the new DSO study that came out just in the last 2 weeks in Maine
Mhm.
are examples of transition plans.
Okay, so Bruce, could you give us a few links that we can add to this short paper?
If I can think of ones that would be helpful.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I think we have a plan, and I'm gonna muddy it up if I say too much else. But I think we have a plan. We're gonna use these comments to assert that in order to get the goal that Kate mentions at the bottom of her email, namely get a bridge to the future. We want a bridge to the future, and we propose the way to get there is to create an RFP that would invite the right consultants to help us get there.
I wouldn't necessarily suggest an RFP. You may decide to go down there, but I would let them think that they have to form an RFP.
Well, I definitely agree with that. When I do organizing for a project, I bring all the leaders to the table and try to railroad the idea into the head as if they came up with it, so that they own it.
That's
What we
correct.
have to try to do. We have to create
Oh, we need to build a plan. Oh, I love the idea of building a plan. How do
Right.
we get a plan built? Oh, I guess we need an RFP. Okay,
Yeah.
let's develop an RFP.
Yeah, that's the idea. We have to give them the idea that they own it, so then they want to do it. Okay, so we have to create a proto plan so that they realize they need a plan, and then they'll figure out how to get a plan. Okay, and do you think we'd also want to suggest that we'll invite Kay and Bruce or others to speak in the city council in 2 months from now? Because they like that, I think.
Myron, let me interject some things here. I don't think that we're acknowledging the level of corruption that exists here. I mean, Energy New Orleans and every member of the city council are connected at the hip. And I spent years in New Orleans working on plans, none which were ever implemented. I think the smart thing to do is go into city council and say, solar and batteries, great idea. Let's do it tomorrow. I think the last thing that you want to do is create a opportunity for them to push it down the road. Because surely before it gets done, there'll be another hurricane, and we were going to spend this money, but we can't spend this money. If they're willing to spend the money, $30 million, to put solar and batteries together, Well, that's great. You just want a list of everyone that gets them.
The only
And once
people,
they
only one's
get
gonna make,
them,
the only person who's gonna make any money on those is gonna be E&O.
well,
Well,
I don't care who makes money on them. Okay. My point is that once the batteries and the solar are installed, now we have an opportunity to create a coalition of people that are vested and create a virtual utility afterwards. But Myron got together, I'm going to say in the mid 1990s, and got Entergy to agree to put $7.5 million into energy efficiency. Entergy subsequently just took $300 million out of Energy New Orleans. He shifted it to the parent company so that when Katrina happened, the next day they declared bankruptcy. And not only did Energy New Orleans get as much money for recovery from Hurricane Katrina as the city did, they also got that $7.5 million.
well, it
And
also
my
happened.
point here is that if you get batteries and solar together, you've got a potential customer that is looking for a pro-rate solution or a distributed generation solution. But I completely disagree. And I'm only a graduate of the graduate school of political management, so I don't know what I'm talking about in politics. But if you give them an
Who are
opportunity to
you?
push this ball down the road for 2 years, Energy's going to get that $30 million for some unforeseen disaster, like the Mississippi River flooding. Okay, I mean, I think that's my opinion, only my opinion. I'm going to shut up and listen to you guys.
Whoever the speaker is got a very good point.
No, it's a good point. In fact, it's exactly happened. In 2003, my colleagues created the New Orleans Energy Efficiency Program and encouraged me to try to lead it. I put together a team. We won the competition. We were picked by the city council, and there was a brouhaha over nepotism, and the whole thing stalled in the summer of 2005 until Hurricane Katrina hit, and they took the $6 million that was allocated to that funds and just scooped it up to help put the utility back together. After the hurricane.
If the regulatory, if Chris is right and the regulatory capture is so bad in New Orleans, you will never get pro-rate, period.
Well, maybe
There's
so.
there's no reason for these meetings every week because you'll never get pro-rate if the regulatory capture is that bad that a well-done plan for the future is a dead letter, then you will never get pro-rate. And this whole effort here, Myron, is not worth it. Not worth spending the time.
That hasn't been shown yet, Kay. But let's get this effort at least through the weekend, right? I mean, it's a Friday.
I'm following where Chris is saying, and Chris is saying, get what you can get $30 million worth of batteries, and hopefully someday we'll get pro-rate or something like it. Some type of rate plan that supports flexibility and supports people. If that is the argument, and because you can only get that, you can't get anything else because of regulatory capture, then you will never get it because regulatory capture is not going to change.
This is where a Gambit article would come in very handy about now.
That's a newspaper in New Orleans. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it just happens that my father was, by the way, who did utility regulation, environmental regulation for the state of Louisiana way back when. Through that, I happen to have had some very deep ties with Gambit, and never mind all of that crap. Just summarizing, if we can find the person currently on the beat who is assigned this type of topic, perhaps a good conversation with them and a timely article that's well written that we might help craft would be extremely helpful, because politics in New Orleans is also largely driven by, you know, dare I borrow the German word, the zeitgeist, you know, what people are talking about. And anyway, I'll leave it there.
Well, also, I'll say that in 2000, Chris, it was a member of the New Orleans Energy Policy Task Force, which was created a year after Hurricane Katrina, and one of the leaders of it was Pres Kavakov, who was a very wealthy guy, and every member of city council goes to him for campaign funding, and he gives money to all of them because that's the only way he can get the political clout he needs. He's a very good friend of mine. I was going to meet him for lunch today over something unrelated. He could also become an arm to get the city council being more even-handed. So what I'd like to do is take Chris's suggestion and think about it. And remember, we may be spinning our wheels, but nevertheless take Kay's suggestion and try to move forward to get quality consultants so we can move forward with a good plan. And if we lose everything but putting batteries on homes without solar panels, that's better.
Well, the bottom line is you've already got batteries on houses with solar.
Yeah,
panels.
we have some, maybe 10% of our.
No, the $30 million, they're going to be able to count this as a victory. Look at all the batteries we got.
Right,
The council, the $30 million is not going back to E&O. It is going to go and buy something, because that's a victory in the minds of the regulators, of the city council.
right.
So you already got that.
So how do we get,
Myron,
how do we get, how
Myron.
do we get the bridge to the future? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
excuse me for a brief second. Myron, I don't think we should interrupt the flow of this dialogue much, but since we're just after 6, my time, I will mention that you yourself have a proposal that you were thinking you could implement in New Orleans, funded by your own self, and I'm thinking you need to be thinking about that particular proposal you made to me as part of this, because that kind of thing might just be something they would seriously consider, because it's
Okay,
all about the battery.
Okay, Richard,
It's all about the battery, right?
I don't
all about
recall
that.
what you're saying, Richard.
All right, well, we'll talk later after.
Okay, well, anyway, I'd like to find consensus. I think we should take Chris's comments and appreciate them, but not sidetrack us. And go with the plan that Kay originally suggested. And try to look to get the city council to think they're coming up with their own idea to create a plan. And then get them to do an RFP for quality consultants. And I think that's the right way to go for the meeting, for the document we produce on Friday. Or do you back away from that, Kay?
No, I don't back away from that, because I think you already have the batteries on solar projects. That's a given. That's an easy yes for the regulators to make. The harder yes is, let's build a transition plan for
Okay,
what
so
the
you
future is
think the
going to
city
look like.
council might do both in the same docket?
It's possible you could split the baby that way. I mean, honestly, the study isn't going to be that expensive. You could actually buy the batteries, and for $500,000 for $200,000 a year or $300,000 a year, you can build what Mark has done for Australia.
Okay, so you're saying buy $9 million worth of batteries a year and the other $1 million build this bridge to the future?
Build a plan so that you have the next step.
Okay. All right. Now, another question I want to ask, I want Kay to chime in on this. In a proposal that ProRate made 2 years ago to the council in the resilience docket, we proposed rolling out ProRate. In the past, we've found one of the Achilles heels of that recommendation was the utility says it's going to cost so much money to build the software to implement the rate design. We don't know how to do it. It's too expensive. And Richard gave me a quote saying he could do that for 10 million. What do you think about that, Kay?
About his 10 million is probably fair.
Okay, so if we think down the road, 1 or 2 years down the road, we now have a quote unquote right opportunity we have the bridge to the future. Now we need to choose a rate design. That last $10 million could pay for the implementing the rates.
Yeah, but you don't want to try to bake that into the plan
No, I
because
don't want to bake
as
it
you
in.
mentioned ProRate, they say no.
No, I don't want to bake it into the plan, but I want to hold the last $10 million back for a subsequent decision in case we want to go down that road. You can follow what I'm saying? In other words,
Say that again. I'm sorry, Myron.
well, like this, we will say, because the majority of our allies in the city council of the the interveners in the meeting I had on Friday want to put batteries in rooftop solar homes. Okay, so we say, fine, go spend 90% of the money that way. Put the other 10% into building a bridge to the future for 2 years. At the end of 2 years, we'll still have $12 million left because it's $32 million. Then we can put on the table a quality rate design and we'll have the money to write the software for it.
I'm cautious to propose that up
No,
front.
I wouldn't propose it. We would let
Okay.
that develop, but that would be what we're thinking on the front end.
Fair enough. But I'd be very skeptical about proposing it because
No, we can't propose it.
Right.
The only thing we can propose is we will agree with our allies in New Orleans, name the various nonprofits, but those in New Orleans know the names and you guys don't, so it's a waste of time. But we'll say we go with the other nonprofits for 90% of the money. Go put your batteries and rooftop solar or wherever you want to put it with that money. But in the other 10%, we'll create a plan for a bridge to the future, and that'll be for the first 2 years, and then we'll see where we get to from there. Kind of a proposal.
sounds like a plan.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Does anyone else want to chime in on this?
I agree. I'll say yes. It's the obvious next step. And I love the idea of planning it into the minds of the city council that they have to have a plan because they clearly don't have one and they've never had one.
Right. Okay. Now, there is one more thing we didn't touch on. I want to remind you, the document we're supposed to write is supposed to comment on whether or not the SERI funds can be used this way. Do you have an idea, Kay, what that question
I don't know the politics well enough in New Orleans to say.
I don't think it's politics. It's something like this money was collected by ratepayers who thought they were paying their bills. But then there was a lawsuit, and the lawsuit associated to a lot of things, including the underperformance of the Grand Gulf nuclear power plant. This is all in the enabling resolution.
Yeah.
I don't have enough knowledge of the inner workings of ENO to say.
No, they said there was something like that.
I have something to say about
Okay,
this.
what's that, Richard?
I'm the son of an attorney who spent an entire scholastic year in never mind, whatever. The point is that legally speaking, there's a compelling argument to say that the benefits of this need to be widely distributed amongst the entire ratepayer group, because that is the body to which the money is officially being returned.
Now, I want to
If-
reinforce that with a comment.
Hold on, if there's an articulation somewhere in the decision that I don't know anything about that would deviate from that, okay, fine. But here's my deeper point, is that the goals of what we are trying to do benefit the larger ratepayer base. And just giving a few people some batteries does not. And somewhere,
Good point, Richard.
somehow,
It's a good point.
somewhere, somehow, that needs to be in what we're saying. And
Right,
if
I
we've
wanna-
only got a single page, okay.
I want to remind people that there are two major court decisions. One was in the case of Volkswagen, who produced cars that had a defect, and they didn't know where to give the money to. So there was a lawsuit, and they decided to spread all this money out over the entire country. In fact, David Stetz was in on the solution to empower electric vehicles as a way to provide a solution to the same people who were victimized by the car industry, namely the Volkswagen. And there was a Texaco settlement about 20 years before, where a similar kind of overpayment, where Texaco was charging more for energy in the wholesale level, and they didn't know where to put the money back. So there was a federal decision, and they spread the money out over all 50 states, apportioned to the size of the state. And it was like a $1 billion fund, and Louisiana got 10 million of it. And we had to use that. And the only thing we use it for was energy efficiency in homes. It's the same kind of example. Those two examples, I can pull them out of the law. I remember I was there then because I've been doing this for 40 years. We can pull those examples out and say, yes, it has to be a solution that conceivably can reach everybody.
Yep.
And that would be a great way to do it. Thank you, Richard, for helping me remember that. Okay. Okay, so we have the pieces to the answer that we need. And I really appreciate everybody's contribution. And I'm sorry going 15 minutes over. And thank you so much for coming, Kay, and everyone else. So I'm gonna give everyone 1 minute to say goodbye if you want to, so 'cause I may not have given you a chance to talk. So Richard, did you want to say, Richard Jenkins, do you want to say something?
Well, from a communication viewpoint, I'm not certain how you're going to arrive at a one-page document. I've heard four plans, 3 or 4 plans coming together. You cannot do a summary and then a criteria listing of 4 or 5 plans on one page. It
Well, the
does
only
not
good-
happen ever.
Well,
And so you're
I-
suggesting that we are the consultants that are putting in this one-page document, and somehow or another the council is to choose among multiple consultants like ourselves to say you're the consultant we want, or will the council just say we need to hire somebody else to look at all of this criteria and make the best decisions?
I just want to say the one pager was Kay's idea. There was nowhere in the resolution that the response by an intervener has to be on one page.
Well, I had no idea. If the council wants it down to one page,
No, they didn't say that.
something is developed this entire proposal in the first place.
No,
So
but
I assume the
There-
one-page document was it.
They're not asking for proposals yet. They're asking for how should we try to spend this money?
right. And
Okay.
I will
And
say,
that can be 1 or 2 pages. What all I'm saying is when I say 1 page is be as brief and succinct as possible.
because if I
Correct.
can read past the first page, and you're wasting your time writing 2 pages.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Okay.
city council's lucky to read the first page.
They're lucky to read the
Yeah.
first paragraph.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
you get them through the
and
first
that-
paragraph and then you do criteria 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and close.
Okay, so
I
listen,
would like to suggest, I would like to suggest that the very first thing that it says is something about how to remunerate all of the ratepayers as this decision, blah, blah, blah. In other words, make the point that all the ratepayers need to be remunerated from these funds. Anyway, and that should be right there at the very beginning. It doesn't have to be driven home hard or anything like that. But I think part of that initial statement, they will read and go, oh, yeah, we have a legal obligation. This money is supposed to go to everybody. And that will be an important aspect of their thinking.
The proper
I'll-
term is equitable distribution to all rate players.
right. Now I want to give Jack,
Perfect.
I want to give Jack a chance to talk. He's been sitting there quiet the whole time.
Yeah, well, I've been listening.
You don't have to talk, but you're welcome to talk now because we're all,
I think Kay had a very good point there. And the aspect of the politics down here is probably true. So
okay,
It's true everywhere in the country because we do have regulatory capture.
right. In US and probably most of the world, we have the best regulators money can buy.
Yeah.
Right.
but just on now that we finished talking, I don't know whether in today's Wall Street Journal, they had an article about the cost effectiveness of solar panels and batteries, and they mentioned that there was a study by a finance firm called Lazar. And while we were talking, I kind of looked them up, and they actually originated here in New Orleans. So I don't know whether any of you guys may know about that company, but
Lazar is
Lazar's
a
cousin.
company based in London.
yeah, but well, they have offices. Well, okay, I just quickly looked at their website, and they indicated that they originated here in New Orleans, and they have.
Well, let me quickly add, as a native New Orleanian, that is a not that uncommon last name in the city. Just saying.
Oh, Lazar. Okay.
Yeah, well, anyway, look,
Yeah.
that's not what we're here to talk about. I
We're
wanna
trying
thank
to say
everybody for-
goodbye.
Everybody made great contributions, mostly Kay, and maybe I heard it just right, maybe I screwed it up, but anyway, we got something. And Brendan has this recorded, so we will not have lost this content. And we'll try to turn this into a one-pager and most a page and a half, knowing the second page doesn't count. Okay,
Signature page.
yeah, thank you very much, Kay.
I never knew that. Lazard was originally started in New Orleans.
Well, yeah,
I learned something new
on their web-
today. Thank you
that's
very
what they-
much.
Probably after a cocktail party.
Okay. Okay, well,
Yeah.
anyway, thank you everyone for coming. We had a good meeting. I'm glad that our crew stood up to and shared notes and made some suggestions. So Kay learned something, so it's good for everybody, okay? Say,
Sorry I was late, folks.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
right,
Hey, Myron, I'm coming to New Orleans Friday.
okay, great.
I'm going to be at Leo's house, just down from you.
Leo Laventhal,
Yep,
where does he live?
Mr.
in the Uptown, close to you.
Okay, well, Uptown is a pretty good, big place from my
Walking distance.
perspective. Walking distance. Okay, great. All right, well, awesome. Well, definitely.
Mr. Stetz, it's great to hear your voice. Anyway, I'll catch you later.
Yeah, have fun out on that West Coast while it's still there.
Yeah, we had tornadoes. We had tornadoes for like the first time ever in San Francisco and Scotts Valley in the last couple of
Well, you
days.
had an earthquake near our case, in Northern California. Right
Yeah,
off the
that
coast.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
but those are common. Tornadoes? No,
No,
no.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for joining the meeting. It was a really good meeting, one of our best, and we'll take it from here. Thank you. Good night.
Good night,
All
all.
right, good night, everyone.
Okay. I can't find the off
All
button.
right. How are you?
Okay, Brendan, you did a great job, Brendan, don't you think?
Yeah, make sure to stop recording.
I don't know where that is.
At the bottom of your toolbar where you share your screen, there should be a record and then a stop recording.
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
Yep, you're currently the host, so you have to
I
be.
see stop share. I don't see stop record.
It's right next to chat, AI companion, React, participants. There's a whole toolbar at the bottom.
I don't see it. It says audio, video, participants, chat, share, pause, annotate, remote control, show meeting, and more.
And then more. Click on more.
Okay, it says stop, pause, recording. Okay, got it.
Yeah, stop recording. Yep.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then that will make